Did you know few controversial Greek philosophers compare to Diogenes? From publicly pleasuring himself in the market square to ridiculing Alexander the Great in his face. Not even Plato would come close to his mystifying behavior. Yet his ideas, teachings, and philosophies have influenced socio-political reforms of the modern era. Hello and welcome to Historia Hub, where we discuss some of the most enigmatic figures and their weirdest habits in ancient history. Today we discuss the untold stories of Diogenes, scandals, satire, and Socrates' shadow. But before we start, you're about to listen to some of the most bizarre stunts pulled by a single man. So consider yourself warned. We begin with why he pleasured himself in public. And no, this isn't fiction. Diogenes was habitually waltzing his willy in public. Why, you ask? His reason was simple. He wanted to rebel against the norms of society and show people the best way to enjoy life was to live unrestrained. I can think of hundreds of ways to live life unrestrained without resorting to the full Monty. He wished people would learn to live freely without the threats of punishment just because they broke tradition, culture, and societal norms. Diogenes believed nothing should be hidden and that whatever he did in private should be replicated in public. Often, onlookers would gather around him and mock him endlessly for his weird habit. But the unbothered Diogenes would often respond, "I wish it were as easy to relieve myself of hunger by rubbing my belly." Shocked by these ridiculous statements, the crowd that gathered to watch this spectacle would disperse, leaving Diogenes to enjoy his afternoon. And if you're thinking that was the height of his public stunts, wait till you hear what he did when he met Alexander the Great. Often when great emperors, army generals, and respected statesmen visited a town, all the people that mattered in the town went to pay them courtesy. They would schedule a date, form a procession, and bear gifts to the VIP who had come to grace their city with his eminent presence. Alexander the Great and Diogenes lived in the same era and are believed to have died on the same date. But that would be for another story later on. If you'd like to see us do a video about it, let me know in the comments section. One day, Alexander the Great visited Corinth, where our controversial hero lived. All the people that mattered went to meet him with gifts and offerings, all except Diogenes. Realizing that Diogenes was conspicuously missing from the entourage and wanting to meet him, having heard so much about him, Alexander decided to go and see our hero. He mounted his horse and asked for directions to Diogenes' home, followed by a large crowd of people. The Greek general met Diogenes lying down on a piece of cloth, basking in the sun. When Diogenes saw Alexander approaching, he only lifted his head and didn't bother to get off his mat and greet his visitor. Ironically, Alexander was impressed by Diogenes' impunity and asked him what he wanted. To which the Greek philosopher replied, "If only you'd get out of my sun." Apparently, Alexander had gotten too close to Diogenes, thus casting his shadow on the poor philosopher. Of all the things that Diogenes could request, he only asked that the greatest Greek army general would move so that his shadow would stop preventing him from basking in the scorching sun. What a man! But I'm curious. What would you have asked of Alexander if you were Diogenes? Me? Well, all I would have asked for is for you to like this video and subscribe to our channel so others can see the wonderful work we're doing here. Now, where was I? Oh yes, of course. Diogenes and his stunts. You know, they weren't the only events that marked his life. His weird philosophies would have baffled you. Diogenes believed that happiness belonged to the man who didn't depend on society. He taught that civilization was too rigid, obstructing the freedom and development of humankind, and that properties and luxury were worthless. He rejected all forms of material comfort and often criticized wealthy people and their opulence. Unlike today's leaders who talk a great deal but act very little, Diogenes walked the talk. To demonstrate his philosophy and beliefs, he lived in a large jar and only begged for a living. And it's not as if he wasn't born into wealth. The Greek philosopher was born to a banker, and some stories claim that he joined his father in the same business as a young man. However, his hatred for wealth and riches got the better of him, and the young man committed the most abominable crime ever. With the help of his father, Diogenes defaced all the gold currencies in the bank, destroying their value. Both men were later expelled from the city of Sinope in modern-day Turkey. And Diogenes went on to become a student of Antisthenes, a famous Greek scholar and pupil of Socrates. Initially, Antisthenes wouldn't accept him because he thought Diogenes' lifestyle was insane. Some sources even claim Antisthenes once struck him with a stick, but that didn't deter Diogenes. Determined to be tutored by Antisthenes, Diogenes replied, "Strike, for you'll find no wood hard enough to keep me away from you, so long as I think you've got something to say." Diogenes abhorred human decency and would conduct himself in the most imprudent ways. There are stories of him urinating on anyone who mocked him, eating in the marketplace, and pointing the middle finger at people, a gesture that was considered insulting. And here I was thinking that millennials invented that sign. The most bizarre stunt of Diogenes was his carrying of a lamp in broad daylight. When asked why he would do what a mentally deranged man wouldn't, the philosopher answered, "I'm looking for an honest man." Diogenes thought that dishonesty and corruption had darkened the souls of men. So he was on a hunt for a pure, unadulterated soul. Did he find one? Your guess is as good as mine. As eccentric as his lifestyle was, Diogenes has influenced thousands of generations of thinkers throughout the centuries. Many have found his philosophy, which focuses on showing virtue through action rather than words, inspiring. Several ancient and modern cities have erected sculptures to celebrate his virtues and influence on mankind, and many famous artists have made him the subject of their works. Even the medical field has found inspiration in his lifestyle. In 1975, the medical condition Diogenes syndrome was named after him. The syndrome is characterized by poor personal hygiene, withdrawal from society, unclean surroundings, and stockpiling of all kinds of objects. Today, we call them hoarders. In 2006, the modern city of Sinope in Turkey erected a huge statue in honor of the legendary Greek philosopher, proclaiming itself the official birthplace of Diogenes. Not to be outdone by the Turks, the city of Greece also issued several ceremonial coins depicting the image of Diogenes. On one side of the coin, Diogenes is shown stark naked and leaning on a staff, with his dog by his side, while the other shows a large ceramic jar, his favorite sleeping place. The European Union also recognized Diogenes' impact and in 2005 named a program after him, the Diogenes Program, which aims to reduce obesity among the European populace. It is an acronym for diet, obesity, and genes. Very few philosophers have influenced thousands of generations the way Diogenes has, and from the looks of things, his philosophies will continue to be felt even into eternity. If you've loved the story of Diogenes, then you'll enjoy the history of Hatshepsut, a woman who defied all odds to become a male pharaoh. So click on this video and I'll see you there. And until next time, thanks ever so much for watching.